Well, hey guys, about a year and a half ago I got my first laser engraver, a 10-watt engraver. I didn't know anything about laser engravers, but I thought I'd give it a try and I was blown away. If you saw that review video, I cut a circle out of a 5/8 inch thick cedar fence board with a 10-watt laser. 6 months later, I stepped up to a 20-watt and I have been engraving everything. I've made money with both lasers. And I'm starting to sign my work with the laser. But today I have a brand new laser that is twice the power of my 20-watt laser. Today I get to try out the CREALITY Falcon 2 40-watt laser engraver and cutter, and I am stoked because obviously it's double the power of my previous laser, but there's also a lot of stuff that I've seen in other videos that they have thought about and taken care of that I don't like about my other lasers. So let's get this box open. And the first thing right off the bat is going to be that I don't have to put this together. Oh, this is a big one. Now you remember in my previous videos I had to assemble the entire frame here, and this one is all put together, all assembled already. I just have to put the laser on, put the legs on. That's about it. Now this comes with air assist, which is a must-have as far as I'm concerned. Now the first thing that I like comes with rubber feet so that you can set it down as low as you need to, and then 2 sets of extensions, but it has holes drilled so that you can store everything right on the frame. My other legs are just waiting to be lost. For starters, I'm just going to put one leg on. We'll just put the spare feet in these front holes here. Perfect. Now here is one of the things that I really like about this laser. The cables are all hidden, it's already attached. I don't know why the others don't do this. We just plug in the laser, and there's some Velcro ties to tie the air assist line to the cable for the laser. Easy peasy. All right. Now I also received the optional honeycomb workbench, which I think is a must-have. I've not had one before, and I've always had to put something under the laser to protect my tabletop. I should have gotten one a long time ago, but I got one now. Now another thing I want to highlight before I set this up completely, the CREALITY Air Assist pump plugs directly into the laser, whereas on my X tool you have to plug it into a separate plug, and you start running out of outlets really quick when you get your computer and everything else plugged in. You can also adjust the air pressure that it provides, which is awesome, but you also don't have to turn the air pump on and off manually. It's controlled through light burn, which is awesome because I don't know how many times I started an engraving or a cut and I forgot to turn it on because it has a separate switch on it. Now that literally took about 10 minutes to set up, but I've got one more thing to open up and get set up, so I'm going to do that right now. Now this is something I'm not entirely sure that I'm going to use much because I've got a window right next to my laser, but we'll put it together and check it out anyway. going camping. Now, I understand that they do now have a solid case, but I think this thing looks kind of interesting, actually. Although it may not fit on my table. I gotta be honest, I was a little skeptical when I pulled this thing out of the bag, but I think this thing's gonna be completely functional. I like it. Now you can choose to mount this fan to either side, whichever setup works best for you. But for me, I've got my window right here, which previously I used to open all the way up and put my box fan up on the windowsill. But it's wintertime now, and I don't want to have that window all the way open, so this is going to be awesome. I can just run this hose. I'll make a panel for this to go out, and I don't have to have a bunch of warm air going out my window, just smoke. Alright guys, well, it is the next day. There was a little bit of fiddling around to get this to link up to the computer. I had to download firmware updates to update the unit and the laser. They give you a USB to plug in to be able to do that. It was a little confusing for me, but there are a lot of videos that show you how to do it. It's really not that difficult. It's just I'm not as computer savvy as I probably should be. But anyways, it's hooked up. I've got it set up on my light burn. I've got a piece of 3/4 inch thick cedar in here that is going to be my first practical project. And this is going to be a lot like the first project I did with my first laser. Set the focus with the gauge. Now the purpose of this project will become apparent right away, but for now. Now this is my first cut. I'm not sure exactly how the settings need to be, so I'm just going to try it 5 millimeters per second at full power. Now we're going to make some smoke here, but it'll make sense. That smoke coming up from the bottom tells me that it's cut through in one pass, 3/4 of an inch thick. I set it up to make 2 passes, but it doesn't look like I'm going to need it. Yeah, it's definitely shooting straight through. Well, good to know. I'm just going to let it finish its process. Now we're going to fix my smoke problem. Perfect day. I think this enclosure is going to prove to be quite a bit more handy than I first thought. Let's give it a try. Now, just for the sake of trying out the ventilation, I'm going to take another piece of cedar, same thickness, and cut another circle just to see how the exhaust fan works. Well, you can't hear it, but the exhaust fan is running. I'm going to go ahead and fire up this circle and go outside and see if I see smoke coming out of there. We'll see if any smoke is coming out of the enclosure itself.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's working good. Now I don't have to suck the hot air out of my room with the giant box fan. That thing is really working good.
Now I can see that there's a little bit of smoke coming out the bottom, but that's because the whole front is open because my shelf isn't wide enough. I think if that was sitting on a flat table, you wouldn't have that problem at all. And now that the cut is done, it's actually sucking the smoke back into it. I know the star of the show is supposed to be the laser, but this enclosure is awesome. This piece of wood is soaking wet, so that might have just barely didn't make it. Not bad for a soaking wet piece of cedar though. Not even super badly charred. I mean, that's a nice clean cut. Let's try a hardwood. I've got a project in mind. I've got this beautiful piece of walnut. It's got a lot of curl in it. And I want to cut this into bow ties that I've made on light burn. So let's give it a shot. Now the red light blinking is just telling us that the air is not on. As soon as the program runs, that light will go green because the air compressor will turn on automatically. Alright, well I have this set up to cut 9 bow ties. Let's see how it does on black walnut. For the sake of being able to film, I'm going to leave the front of the enclosure open. It's probably going to get smoky in here, but you can't really film through the enclosure. Well, that's a bummer. Well, guys, I have a confession. I did a test piece, and I set the speed for 5 millimeters per second and 2 passes, and I felt like it went through on the first cut, so I doubled the speed on my next one. Didn't quite make it through. I went and cut the end off on the saw, and you can see it's just barely there, so I think I might just so I can save this pretty wood, I'll just sand this bottom down until I get through, and that way I can still use these. Alright, well I went ahead and ran this again, and I set the parameters back, or I set the speed back where it was originally on my test piece. This time it worked much better. Well, now let's make a home for these bow ties. I think where the laser is really going to make this awesome is being able to carve the recess in your piece for these bow ties to go into. So I'm going to play around with kerf settings to figure out so that I get a nice tight fit. Okay, so I've changed the kerf offset on each one of these to a different number, starting at 0.01, 0.02, 0.03, and so on. That'll allow me to determine how much of an offset I need to compensate for the kerf of the laser itself. And I've got a piece of ponderosa pine in there. I'm going to close it up and fire it off. On this one I forgot to do 2 passes. But anyways, these are progressively smaller as they go down, so let's see which one of these fits my my first bow tie. This one is 0.1 millimeters smaller. Boy, that looks like it, huh? Wow, so the kerf is only 0.01 millimeters. Man, now I can't get it out. Well, I could have saved myself a lot of time. 0.01. And now I have a whole bunch more bow ties. Okay, well I took the chop saw and simulated a crack in this piece of wood. And there you go. Bow tie, good as new. Now, if you're wondering why I'm spending so much time with bow ties, you remember my exploding bowl video? Well, I'm thinking about something like this. And possibly maybe on the side. But the nice thing about the laser is I can change the size, I can change the design, I can make unlimited changes to these so that they're not all the same size. And although I'll probably have to hand carve out of this bowl to get these to work, I could probably use the laser on the end just to cut deep enough for me to chisel out, and it'll be a perfect fit for these bow ties. Well guys, I had finished filming and I decided to just play around a little bit, and I took a piece of pine and split it with a hatchet and then cut these pockets for these bow ties into it, and it is absolutely stunning. It is a perfect fit, super strong. I'm going to be using this thing a lot. I've got a crazy, actually I have several pieces of these crazy cookies that I cut a while back, and I want to make charcuterie boards, but it's cracked, it's got a natural bark inclusion, and to put bow ties in this with the laser is going to be perfect. I cannot wait, and you're definitely going to see this coming up sometime soon. Well guys, that's going to do it for this one. I want to thank CREALITY for letting me demonstrate this laser for you. In the description below the video, I have a link to purchase one of these. I really like this cover. I didn't think I was going to, but it really works. I think right now with my link, the laser itself is $300 off, but you can click on the link and find out what the current pricing is. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be using this thing a lot. Well, that's going to do it for this one, guys. I appreciate you watching. We're coming up on the end of the year, the holidays and everything, and I've got 2 huge cable projects I'm working on, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep up this video schedule. I'm going to do my best, but hopefully if I fall off a little bit, I'll pick up just as soon as I can, but the next month or so is going to be pretty busy. So I appreciate you watching this one. Hang around. It might be a minute, but we'll see you soon.